November 2017. The first president of Facebook sits down on a stage in Philadelphia and says the quiet part out loud. The apps on your phone were built to give you, his words, a little dopamine hit every once in a while. He calls it a social validation feedback loop, exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. He isn't guessing, he's confessing. And he isn't the only one. The engineers who built the most addictive machine in history keep stepping forward, one by one, to explain exactly how they did it. By the end of this, you'll know the trick, a trick first discovered by accident on pigeons 70 years ago. But the strangest confession isn't Parker's. It's the man who invented the most copied gesture on your phone. We'll get to him. Here's what shouldn't make sense. Nothing on your feed is a jackpot. No money comes out of the machine. Most refreshes deliver nothing you'll remember tomorrow. And you know that while you're doing it. Yet the checking doesn't stop. A Google design ethicist named Tristan left the company to explain why. When we pull our phone out of our pocket, he wrote, we're playing a slot machine to see what notifications we got. Not, it's a bit like a slot machine. Playing one. He meant it mechanically. And he didn't stop at notifications. Refresh your email, a slot machine for new mail. Scroll the feed, a slot machine for the next photo. Swipe faces on a dating app, a slot machine for a match. The same man who was paid to design these moments listed them, one by one, like a dealer explaining the house rules on his way out of the casino. Be clear about what's being wagered, because it isn't nothing. Every pool costs a sliver of the one budget you never get back, your attention, in minutes and hours. And in a growing corner of this story, the wager became literal money. We'll get to that too. That's the mystery of this story. A slot machine with no jackpot should not work. To see why it works anyway, you have to go back to a Harvard basement in the 1950s and watch one of the most famous psychologists in history run low on pigeon food. The psychologist was B.F. Skinner. His lab trained pigeons in small chambers. Peck the disc, receive a pellet. One action, one reward, every time. Then, as the story goes, the pellets ran low. So the lab switched schedules. Reward the pecking only sometimes, randomly. The birds could no longer predict which peck would pay. Understand how strange that decision was. Under the old schedule, the rules were honest. Work, then wages. Every peck, a pellet. The new schedule broke the contract. Same work, unpredictable pay. If pigeons reasoned like economists, they should have pecked less. They did the opposite. They pecked harder, some of them thousands of times an hour. And here is the detail that should worry you. When the rewards stopped entirely, the pecking didn't. Behavior trained by random rewards is the hardest kind to extinguish. A habit built on always dies quickly when always ends. A habit built on sometimes survives almost anything, because no single empty pull proves the next one won't pay. Read that again, because it's the whole video. Sometimes beats always. Psychologists call it variable ratio reinforcement. Rewards on an unpredictable schedule train the strongest, most stubborn habits. Think of it as the gravity of maybe. A guaranteed reward teaches you to relax. A random one teaches you to keep pulling. 40 years later, neuroscience found the wiring. Wolfram Schultz and his colleagues watched dopamine neurons fire in real time and found they spike hardest not when a reward arrives, but when it arrives unexpectedly. Your brain's reward chemical isn't really about the prize. It's about the maybe. So a machine that wants your attention doesn't need to pay you. It needs to almost pay you, on a schedule you can't predict. Now rerun your phone through that machine. The notification that might be anything. The refresh that might deliver something wonderful and usually doesn't. The feed that never ends, so no moment ever says, "You're done." Every piece maps onto the chamber. You peck. Sometimes it pays. Mostly it doesn't. You peck again. None of this arrived by accident. The playbook already existed in casinos. An MIT-trained anthropologist named Natasha Schüll spent 15 years inside the machine gambling industry. Her finding: the industry's core metric wasn't winning or losing. It was time on device. Machines were engineered to dissolve stopping points. No clocks, no windows, no natural end. Until players entered what gamblers themselves call the zone. Sound familiar? The feed has no clocks either. The casino playbook Schüll documented runs deeper than removed clocks. Machines learned to serve near misses, 2 cherries and a blank so close, because an almost win fires the urge to continue harder than a plain loss. They learned to dress small losses in celebration sounds, so losing felt like winning. Now look at the feed's versions. The post that almost took off. The message that's typing and then isn't. Different machine, same choreography. Which brings us back to the strangest confession. The pull to refresh gesture, drag down, release, wait for the reveal, was invented by a young engineer named Lauren Brichter in 2009. It was so elegant that nearly every app on your phone copied it. Years later, he told The Guardian, "Pull to refresh is addictive. Twitter is addictive. These are not good things. And then, I regret the downsides." The man who built the lever looked back at what it became and flinched. And then the metaphor stopped being a metaphor. Games began selling loot boxes, sealed digital prizes, contents random, purchased with real money. A slot machine mechanic sold to children. Belgium's Gaming Commission examined them in 2018 and ruled that paid loot boxes were illegal gambling. The American FTC held its own workshop a year later. The machine in your pocket had started taking coins again. So here's what the confessions add up to. Your phone didn't slowly turn into a slot machine. It was assembled into one, feature by feature, by talented people using a mechanism discovered on pigeons in a Harvard basement. The lever is the pull. The reels are the feed. The payout is the maybe. And the metric, borrowed straight from the casino floor, is your time on the device. The pigeons were the prototype. The product was never the app. It was the schedule, running on you. Now that you can see the schedule, here's where you'll notice it this week. You'll notice the phantom check, your hand reaching for the phone when nothing buzzed. That's a lever pull with no cue, the signature of a variable schedule. You'll notice the half-second pause after you pull to refresh. That pause is the real spin. And if an app gives you a streak, you'll notice a small flicker of dread about breaking it. That dread is the machine training you not to leave. Try one thing, not a rule, just an experiment. Pick one app. Turn its notifications off for 7 days, and simply count how many times your thumb goes looking anyway. You're not fixing anything yet. You're just watching the schedule run without its bell. That's the whole trick. And now you can watch it try to work. And once you start counting lever pulls, there's one gamble stranger than the machine that never pays out. It's what happens to the people who actually win. Lottery winners go broke at a rate that should be impossible. And the reason isn't the money. That's what we're opening next.